Hello, my name is S.K. Williams, and today I would like to talk to you about pressing on. Sometimes in life, everything seems to be falling apart. This is actually reflected in our social situation, not just on an individual level. Even in our entertainment, we see things we once loved becoming perverse mockeries of what they used to be. We see entire fantasy worlds we used to love, like Star Wars or Star Trek, being so terribly misshapen. But I do think it is just a sign of the times. We see in government the same sort of warping. We see the same sort of warping in the news and how we recount it, and the same sort of warping in our society as a whole. Even in our educational system, we seem to teach a very warped view of things, and it has created conflict, deepening factions. I do believe that there is an effort to reshape society, to create that golden utopia once promised by the 19th century rationalists that so inspired them, which is why Karl Marx was so popular. Indeed, he was one of the greatest contributors to that idea. But they skip over the things that disagree with their vision. They skipped over the two great wars, or when they need to confront them, explain them away, they dismiss them. For example, they refer to the Second Great War as a religious war fought by Christians on Christian ideology, and how centuries of Christian anti-Semitism led to Adolf Hitler, with apologies for the name being altered, but Al Gore jealously protects his rhythm, if you know what I mean, was a devout Catholic, and the Catholic Church fully supported him, and so did the Protestants. And this isn't really real history, but it is how it is framed. And they skip over communism being connected to what they believe, claiming that it has nothing to do with atheism, nothing to do with what they believe, when in reality it does. Even people like Hitchens were actually communists. He was a Trotskyite after all. But they don't like it because the original mythology had an endless sea of progress. Religion would finally be vanquished, at least as they define it now. Originally they claimed they were building a new religion, but now they say they have no religion, even though they have the same beliefs as the people who wanted to build a new religion. And they wanted to build a new social order. And I don't really think that the conflict is purely between those who want the traditional older order and those who want the new one. There's also a disagreement on exactly what the new order should be amongst those who wish it. And there are different factions who oppose them, although they are more unified in today's world. Still, we do see society falling apart. We see, in America, contentions between the current president and the former president, who is running to regain his office, who is also being indicted and has been indicted for 4 different felony charges, one of which may carry the death penalty. So we're in a rather precarious situation, as the more indictments that are thrown at Trump, the more support he gets. Biden is himself facing a possibility of impeachment. In America, the voter does not feel represented on either side, and we see traditional values giving way not to a new glorious moral value system, but to insanity, basically. And it does seem that we are on the precipice. Whether or not we go over it into a civil war, or worse, total social collapse, or if we pull ourselves back, or if we for a while walk the razor's edge longer than would be expected, I don't know. But I do know that God is always there for those who call upon him. And I do know that such trying times are needed. As the book of Ecclesiastes say, God creates all, even the wicked, for the day of evil. And that isn't to say that God creates moral evil. I know a lot of people in the self-declared skeptic community says he did, and they will point to Isaiah 45:7, which says God created evil, even though they can only do that in the King James Bible, which is more properly called the Authorized Version, as no translation says that other than the King James that I'm currently aware of. Perhaps the Matthews does, I can't remember, but even going back to before the King James Bible, it doesn't really say creates evil, and it's obvious that in 1611 the word evil didn't necessarily connotate the sort of moral evil we talk about today. But they never really bothered with facts or linguistics. If they did, they wouldn't claim that atheism is defined as a lack of belief in a god, because A means without, theism means belief in a god. Put those together, you get without belief in a god, which is another way of saying lack of belief in a god. And they wouldn't be claiming that atheism is the original 3,000-year-old definition of it. They could look at the etymology online, and it clearly isn't. Nevertheless, we do see that in our society, people are confused and angry and divided, and yet we also see this playing out in our popular conceptions of the world, which reflect in our art. I do think it's rather telling that in a time when society itself is deeply divided and disintegrating, so are the popular forms of entertainment, so are the stories we tell to both entertain ourselves and to reassert our own cultural values. And these are times that often lead to great change, though not usually the sort of change that the people who want to occur ever happens. Nevertheless, we also seem to have a large portion of society that individually are going through these same confusions and divisions with each other. But we can persevere through them, and God will always be there to assist with that. I haven't much else to say right now, so I shall take my leave. Thank you. God bless, and goodbye.